are for another connect3 broadcast. Can you tell I'm happy? Because I am. I am delighted to be with you today for this time. We're in week 38 of our 40-week study of Jesus Now. You well know my intent for our time together is that we experience Jesus in this moment, not a Jesus we read about in the Scripture or someone tells us about from their life story, but one who is working right now in this moment. Hey, Jesus is here right now. And today we're going to look at Him from John chapter 20. John records the resurrection of Jesus, a climactic and hope-filled chapter. Yet in such a familiar passage, there are at least 4 rich, often overlooked insights that deepen our understanding of the resurrection, discipleship, and belief. So, as we look at John 20, I want us to look at verse 1 as one of these 4 insights today. Verse 1, early on the first day of the week, watch this, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb. Listen, John emphasizes darkness here, symbolic in his gospel for confusion, fear, and spiritual blindness. Mary approaches the tomb in grief and despair, not yet understanding what has occurred. But it's in the dark that the light of the resurrection begins to break forth. The chapter begins in darkness and ends in belief and light, illustrating how Jesus transforms confusion into clarity. So, don't wait until everything is clear to seek Jesus. Often He meets us in the middle of our confusion. The second thing I want you to see is Mary's singular devotion. Verses 1 and 2 and on down into verses 11 to 18. Mary comes alone. She stays after Peter and John leave. She weeps. Mary Magdalene's persistent love and grief keep her at the tomb. Unlike the disciples, she doesn't leave, but because she stays, she is the first one to encounter the risen Christ. She becomes the apostle to the apostles, the first to be sent with the good news. Faithfulness in sorrow positioned her for great revelation. So listen, faithfulness in your sorrow can become the soil for a deeper revelation of Jesus. The third thing I want you to see comes from verse 9. They did not yet understand the Scripture. Wow. Despite the empty tomb, they still did not understand that Jesus had to rise. Even after 3 years with Jesus and seeing the evidence, belief is not automatic. It requires the opening of both the eyes and the heart. This verse highlights the need for divine revelation, not just visible truth. So what do? We listen for the shepherd's voice in prayer and the word. And oh my goodness, He speaks to those who are seeking Him. The fourth and last thing I want to bring out today comes from verse 16. Jesus said to Mary, she turned and said to Him, Rabboni. Mary doesn't recognize Jesus until He speaks her name. You see, this mirrors John 10, 3 and 4, where Jesus says, the good shepherd calls his sheep by name. They recognize his voice. Resurrection power is personal. Jesus doesn't just rise for the world. He rises for Mary, and he rises for you. Relationship precedes recognition. So what are we going to do with this revelation? We're going to embrace the growth that comes through the risen and ascended Christ. We're going to walk by faith and the revelation that he has given, not by what we see with our eyes. That's the way we live in the context of Jesus now. My friends, live it out this week.